This is Elizabeth Gerhart. I'm here with Susan Ganz of Ganz Strategic Solutions. Susan, what do you do?
So, at the heart of what I do, Elizabeth, is give people a vacation.
I need that.
I think we all do. So,
Yes.
you might be wondering, what do you mean by that? And what I mean is that I work with leaders of small, mid-sized businesses around supporting them with their business. So that could be through consulting around growth, it could be coaching them around how do they take their business to the next level, or how do they move to the next level or do something different. And why I say vacation is because it's lonely when you're at the top or a leader and you don't feel that you have somebody to share your ideas, sounding board. You might have different people, but you might feel that you have some guards around you that you can't just let it all out. So, with me as their navigator and guide, I can take it on. So, they unpack their luggage onto me, and we work through things and we go through step by step and really understand like what is important to that leader, business owner. And we look at, well, what's the blind spot? What is getting in the way of that next business level or next career level, whatever that is? And people often say that they feel so relieved and so relaxed. And it's nice to have the spotlight just shine on them, and like they're not being asked for anything. It's just they're fully supported. So that's why I call it a vacation.
That sounds great. I know for business owners, it's hard to find people to talk to, especially if you have employees. You can't really talk to them about anything because they're employees. And so you need somebody on your level who you can really talk to. One thing you said that was interesting earlier when we talked was that you work with mid-level managers who don't even know they need a coach sometimes, but really benefit. How does that work?
Yeah, so I find that I call them the lost middle, as I shared with you, is early on in your career, you often have training and lots of support. And then when you get super senior in your career, you often also have support where an executive coach can come in. The lost middle don't often know what they don't know. And they're questioning about, how do I get to that next level? And what a lot of people don't realize is those steps that got you to that, say, the mid level, are not necessarily those same steps and tools that you need to get to the senior level. And it's often around the soft skills and relationships, and um, using more of your emotional intelligence, self-awareness, so that inner awareness, and then being aware of how do you relate to others and being very mindful about their styles. And those are the blind spots that that lost middle tends to have.
That is so true. When I worked in corporate, they constantly had us going to classes on how we interacted with other people and how to do it better. And I think when you're mid-level management or in management at all, you have to manage down and up, both.
Absolutely.
And I've seen managers who are great at managing up and terrible at managing down, and they don't do that well. So finding how to do that is really important. And that's something that you help with. So what would you do? What would be one of the first things you would do with a mid-level manager who came to you for help?
So first we have a conversation to hear what's important, what is that mid-level manager want to do. And then I use the Strength Finders assessment to understand what is it innately that they have. You know, some people like to focus on weaknesses, but sometimes I think that's misused energy, that if you really bolstered up the strengths and then had a spotlight on what can get in the way, the blind spots, then that really helps that person get to the next level. So I've worked with some clients who were, let's say, butting heads with colleagues. And when you looked at their strength finders, you would find, oh, they're just the way they're approached, very analytic, let's say, and let's say their colleagues weren't as analytic. So you have somebody who's very analytic and somebody who's not. And that's where some of the rub is. And it's about how do you adjust your style? How do you get the information across in a way that the other person is going to receive it? And, you know, the technical skills are there, but it's about how do you be aware of the other person?
And I think we all need that because I use Calendly to schedule, and it comes across as impersonal and a little harsh sometimes. So I try saying to people, would you mind using my Calendly to schedule? And it's hard. Like, how do you broach something like that that kind of takes the personal piece out of getting a meeting together, but is so much more efficient?
Yes, it is a dance because we're living in a very tech savvy world, and time is limited, but not everybody knows how to use the tools, or somebody just wants to say, just give me some dates. And so sometimes it's about providing options. I'd like you to use my Calendly. It'll be much faster. So it's a benefit for you to use it. And if you are having trouble, let me give you 3 dates.
Yeah, I think that's probably an option I should give people is we don't have to use Calendly, but it is the best way to do it. So, but it is a real benefit that you save a lot of time. So that's one thing. That was a great suggestion. So those are the kind of things you help your clients with then, right?
Yes, I always ask. So when somebody says, I'm having trouble communicating with this colleague or my manager, I talk about their preferred methods of communication. Have you had that conversation about how they like to receive information? And if you're having difficulty for whatever reason reaching them, is it okay to not? And when you establish sort of those rules of engagement, it makes communication a whole lot easier.
Absolutely. And you don't work just with middle managers. You also work with leaders, CEOs, founders.
Absolutely. And I find that the leaders and the founders also, their their challenges are also on the emotional intelligence spectrum about networking and relationships, or having this uh, introspection about what is next for their business, what is next for their careers. Maybe they've been working in a certain area for so long, and maybe they're getting burned out, or they don't have the passion for it anymore, and they know they have more in them, and it's about how do you unleash that desire. And it is about having somebody to talk to to bring it forth from them and ask the key questions to bring it out.
So that is really important. And how long have you been doing this?
So officially on my own, I've been doing this for the last couple of years, but for me, I feel that my entire career is has prepared me for this, and I bring those experiences because I've worked in the corporate world and commercial lending, in doing corporate finance and strategy consulting, in technology and in management on Wall Street, and financial advising and planning for 10 years. And I've worked for all big companies. I've worked in international realms. And through my board and leadership work, I've also worked, do international work with leaders, as well as in the United States. So it's all those experiences that I bring to my clients, and they appreciate that, oh, you've walked in my shoes, you know what it's like to be in corporate America, or you know what it's like to be an entrepreneur.
Right. I found that that blend of both is really helpful because when you do start your own business, not everything that corporate America does is bad. Like if you're tired of corporate America, there are some really good structural things that you need to bring into the infrastructure of your business, I think. And it sounds like you're doing the blend, like you're taking the good things from corporate or your understanding of corporate and helping people understand how to get ahead in corporate or how to get ahead starting your own business and maybe even dealing with those people in corporate in your own business, right?
Absolutely, to know what are the structures and processes. I find a lot of small and mid-sized businesses don't always like the processes, but that's what takes you to the next level and makes you repeatable, is by having a system and a process for doing things, and it takes a lot of pressure off of you when you don't have to reinvent every time.
Absolutely. And working with international people in corporate, that's really important because I know when I was at a company that had international offices, it's really easy to make a mistake when you're dealing with somebody of another culture without even knowing that you are and understanding how they communicate and act. So I think, a lot of companies that people are starting today, especially the tech ones, are all over the world. And that background that you bring to that is very important.
Absolutely. You know, in dealing with folks internationally in my corporate life, it gave me sensitivity to their time zones, how they do business. I remember reading a great book about jesters and so forth, and it was a challenge for me when I went to Tokyo to present. And I'm somebody who's very animated, as you can see. I'm even using my hands and eye contact and smiling and all those things I couldn't do. And it was super hard for me, and to be very conscious of that because I wanted them to receive the messages, and I had to adapt my style so they would receive the messages, and bringing that perspective. And I've presented to people at Japanese companies and through my consulting work and coaching work, and so they appreciate that I know these nuances, so as they're navigating through the organization, they have this advisor who can help them.
That's really important because you want your message to get across and you don't want any distractions and you don't want them to say, look at that person waving their hands all over the place and acting like crazy. I can't even hear what they're saying because of that.
Yes.
So that it sounds like you have a great coaching business. What is your normal process? I guess you intake somebody and you ask them questions and you figure out what their needs are and then you come up with solutions for them and then you help them implement the solutions. Is that it in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, yes. So it's an initial conversation that is complimentary. We have to determine, is it a fit on both sides, mutual relationship. And then it's, scoping what is it, the type of work that we're going to do together. And really it's like a gap analysis, right? So it's really understand what's that future vision, where are they, and then what are the gaps that need to be closed, and then prioritizing those gaps in those steps.
Great. Can you give any examples of people that you've worked with without using their names?
Sure. So, from a consulting perspective, I'm helping a company get to their next stage of growth. And they came to me because they're stagnating at that level and not sure why. And there are two issues going on. One is they have call it a consumer part of their business, and a business to business part of their business. And they have some great branding for the consumer side, that branding is possibly impacting the business to business side because it's not necessarily resonating. So that's one aspect. Another aspect has to do with what I talked about before, process. So a lot of the growth that the company has had has been amazing organic growth. And now it's about, well, how do you get some more proactive growth, so they're not only coming to you, but you're being intentional about who you're going after and having a process for that, and a whole pipeline and sales business development function and process. So that's something that we're working on.
Well, that sounds great because really without those processes in place and the infrastructure, you can't grow and scale your business. And
Exactly.
yeah, I'm working on that with Fireside right now. I've got a lot of ideas for how to automate a lot of things. I just have to get the programmer. So my son's helping me a little bit. Uh, this sounds wonderful. So how do people reach you?
So you can find me in a few ways. My website is gansstrategicsolutions.com, and Gans is spelled Ganz. You can find me via LinkedIn as Susan Ganz of Ganz Strategic Solutions. And I also have a web show called R.E.S.T, which stands for Resiliency and Empowerment Seminar Today, where I highlight leaders of small and mid-sized businesses as well as nonprofits to hear their journeys, hear about their companies, and seeing how they're being resilient during these challenging times. And those videos are on my website as well as Ganz Strategic Solutions on YouTube.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you need to say about your business?
What I would say is to remember that you don't need to go it alone, that to put your support system in place, to remember about self-care. We haven't talked about that, but that's just so important in one's growth and success. And to remember that what you did and have done for your current level of success is necessarily the same for the next level of your success.
Right. Exactly. So people want to, they say, don't tell me what you did yesterday. Tell me what you're doing today or what you'll do tomorrow. Right. So exactly. Great. Well, it has been wonderful talking to you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It was a delight to be on your show.